And welcome. Thank you so much for coming into this huddle. I see lots of familiar faces and names that I know well. I'm excited to have you. If you don't know me well, I'm Jo Zuleika. I'm a leadership coach. And I was just saying before I got started that I have an interesting trajectory to talk about networking from a personal standpoint. I started a job right out of college and I never left that company for over 30 years. And I didn't have to network. So, why am I teaching today? Well, partly because I have been coaching women stepping through various paces in their career and helping them actively manage their networking, whether it's finding a new job, making new contacts, interviewing, um, being promoted, sashaying up to the levels above. And also, I am an entrepreneur. I run my own business. I run my own business by servicing clients, which means I have to network. I have to advertise. I have to market. I have to put myself out there. I've had to get over all of the cringe that many of us feel when we consider having conversations that are outside of our normal social circle. So before we started the recording, I asked the gals that were here early, what's your impression of networking? And if you're just joining now, feel free to type in the chat. I won't call out your name, but I'd love to read some of the comments in real time. When I say networking, what do you feel? And I read some messages, some notes that says feels like cold calling, which I assume is not a desired thing, not a loving feeling. One of my lovely clients said introverted pain, and others are also agreeing with that. So I am feeling like networking is something that we know that we should do. It's a career skill that we know is supposed to help us and we should do it, but we might not know how. We might not know exactly what steps to take. It might feel foreign to us, and therefore we probably don't do it as often as we should. So I'm going to step you through about 30 slides. It'll move fairly quickly. I'd love to see any comments or reactions in the chat, and then we'll open it up for discussion. As we go, I'm going to share my experience, but also some philosophies or frameworks that might be really helpful for you to consider, some best practices, some inspiration for how you can kind of move into the zone of networking. Um, I'll share more about that later, and also some of my secrets. So stay tuned. All right, so what do we have here? I sent you all a worksheet that if you have it, you can download it, you can print it, you can use it as we step along, but it's also something that you can use for the future. If you don't know me well, here I am. I'm Jo. Yes, I'm an extrovert. Yes, I love to talk to people, but I did not always know how to make good connections. I didn't know how to network, but I studied from pros and I honed a method, and now I have an active practice. I have direct outreach. I do planned events such as this. This could be considered networking, meeting my community. And I even do cold direct messaging. Oh, horrors, right? I think everybody, like somebody in the comments said, cold calling. It sounds horrible. But I've learned how to get over the cringe. My business thrives on this activity. And now I'm teaching you and others my tactics so that you can gain clients, job leads, promotions, contacts, and widen your circle of advisors. I sometimes coach gals to start building their own inner network, their own, table of advisors, their own inner board. That even if you're not looking for a job, it's really good to have an active community that can advise you, give counsel, give insight, get advice from. All right, so even if you're not an extrovert, we're going to talk about some of the misconceptions you might be having about networking, that you don't want to bug people. I'd love to see you comment if any of these are really like, oh yeah, that's what I think. That if I send an invite, they might not accept, like, and that'll feel terrible, like I am bugging them, bothering them, or I'll feel rejected. I don't feel comfortable talking with people that are important or high level or unknown to me or unfamiliar. I have no idea what I would talk about. And therefore, I would need to get ready for something like that. I would have to prepare. And that's sort of the stall that our brain does where we think, I'll do that at some other time once I'm better somehow, once I'm more complete. And then the last one, I would have to be a good conversationalist to be in networking, and I'm not that kind of person. And none of these are actually really true, nor are they good reasons to not network. Reading in the comments, I've got a chat saying, I have no idea what I'd talk about. That's me. And another gal says, yes, not knowing what to say. And the first one about bothering. Thank you. Thank you for owning that. That gives us a little bit more traction for how we can coach, how we can train in this session. We'll talk about that, but I'm going to do some more misconceptions. I like to say networking is like hygiene. It's like flossing, only it's for your career. It's a healthy practice. It's something that we want to do consistently all the time, even daily, just like dental hygiene, not just right before you see the dentist. You could also think of it like an investment account, that it's something that you always want to be putting a penny in the bank because the results compound over time. So it's a practice that we want to do proactively, that we want to do yesterday, like that old adage that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the next best time is today. That it's something that's an investment in our future, in relationships. It's a good hygienic practice for our careers. And it's a skill that you can learn just like any other thing that you've learned in your life. You can do it well, and moreover, you can make it easy for you. You can do it just the way that makes sense for you. You can do it as an introvert. You can do it as whatever's comfortable for you. It doesn't mean that you have to suddenly become some different person to start a networking practice. Okay, so what if we don't even call it networking? What if you reframe it? And this is where, if you have printed out the little worksheet, I'd love you to start taking some notes. Think about if you rebranded this whole career hygienic activity, this outbound touch points in some other way than calling it networking and having that heavy weight or that feeling of sort of revulsion or repel or distastefulness, like, ugh, that's like cold calling. What if you called it something else? What if it's personal development? What if it's maintaining your career health through connections? What if it's building a relationship bank? What works for you? You want to think of it that way. I've got a friend who's presented inside the Leadership Lab group. For many of you who are attending today, you're inside my private coaching group. Kim Trathen, she's my LinkedIn expert. When she goes on LinkedIn for an hour every day, she tells herself, this is the best hour. I am meeting all of these amazing people that want to meet me. She rebrands the whole LinkedIn experience as the most fun experience of her day. Like those 5 hours, an hour each day of the week that she is networking, she tells herself, this is good for me. This is fun. I get to meet people. People want to meet me. So it does help to brand it in a way that makes it more doable for you. So think a little bit about, what if you didn't call it networking? What would you call it? Okay, so we're going to use some basic concepts, some general networking concepts that might be helpful for you. The first, networking is not even goal oriented. Okay, there's nothing that you're going to go get, there's nothing that you have to do, there's no metric of success or fail. It is simply making and warming your contacts for the sake of connection. That's all. We're just touching our community. We're just reaching out and meeting with people that are adjacent to us, known by us, somebody that we're curious about. That's what we're doing. We're not trying to get anything. We don't have to prove anything. We're not trying to perform. We're not trying to win. We're not trying to impress. When you think about it this way, that it's not transactional, there is no end goal, then you cannot fail, right? You cannot fail at investing. You either do it a lot or you do it a little. You cannot fail with flossing. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. I guess that could be a fail. But when you're flossing, it's not like you're getting an A. You're just doing the good practice, right? So there's no get. It's just there for you to give. It's there for you to give to yourself, to your community, to the other person. And when you think of it like that, maybe it's a little bit easier to approach the whole activity. Lesson number 2. You get to be who you are. You get to be exactly who you are. This whole lesson is called The Art of Authentic Networking. Authentic means true to you, being yourself, being exactly who you are, not faking it or forcing or trying too hard. You don't have to be a sparkling conversationalist. You don't have to be extroverted. You don't have to be some important thought leader that's worthy of having the attention of somebody that you're talking to. Is that a relief? Hope that you feel that it is true. I will show you how that is true. Lesson number 3, it's not even about you. It isn't about you. We make networking focused on the other person, not yourself. We take all of the drama, all of the performance anxiety, all of the spotlight fear away when we focus on the other person. You're not trying to get anything. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not tap dancing for applause. You're not trying to make somebody think that you're the greatest person ever. You're not trying to get hired. You're focused on the other person. And that should give you a real sense of relief. Is that surprising for you to think about networking in that way? Yeah, I see some nods. Okay, some helpful perspectives. I'm here to be generous. I'm here to give of my time. Yes, I requested time of the other person, or yes, I'm at this networking event, but I can be generous of my attention. I can be giving and thoughtful of another person, and that's the spirit I want to be in. I'm not here to get anything. I'm not here to sell myself. How can I be helpful? How can I learn? Can I be in learning mindset? Can I be in a growth mindset? Can I be awake and aware and curious? That's all I need to do. Just listening to another person is helpful. You know this from your own experience. When somebody really gives you attention, really listens thoughtfully to you, asks probing questions, goes too deep, I mean, 1, 2, 3 deep, not too deep. When you have the honor of somebody giving you their attention, it feels good to be heard, to be listened to be seen, to be thought of as important. That's what you're there to do. You can think, I'm just taking charge of my career. This is fun. I'm on an adventure. This is my journey. And I like the last one. How can I add value? How can I be giving value in this experience? And again, a reminder, you don't have to perform, right? Are you liking this? Do you believe it? Okay, so a little bit more about value. How you can add value if you're thinking like, I don't know, I'm going to add value to somebody I've never met or somebody I feel awkward talking to or somebody who's very important. How do I add value? There are many things that you can do. You can offer to triangulate by introducing the person that you're talking to somebody else that you think that they might be interested to know after you learn a little bit more about what they're doing, what their challenges are, what they're working on, what their hurdles are. You can offer to collaborate or ideate with somebody, like a brainstorm, an idea storm. You can offer to be a sounding board right in that moment. You could be like, I'm curious, do you want to just spell it out for me, or do you want to share a little bit more if that's what you're working on? I'd be happy to listen to your thoughts on that. Or at a different time, you can say, I'd be happy to chat with you a little bit more about that in detail and just be a sounding board for you. You can invite people to things. You can offer resources like books that you've read, podcast articles, a YouTube video, a movie, something that reminds you of what you're talking about that you think that they might enjoy or that's related. And I like to say, when you're in a networking conversation and you're not even sure where it's going to go, you don't have to take it anywhere. Again, it's not transactional. You're not trying to get something. You're not trying to land a message. You're not trying to prove yourself. You can go deep. You don't have to get all the topics covered. You can let the conversation be organic and a standalone conversation that just goes into a place that then you kind of take a little bit deeper, like a taproot. I like to say, think depth, not breadth. And I'm going to tell you some stories about people that I've networked with recently. Some people that could make me like shiver in my boots with how important or influential or titled they are, and me not even knowing what I was going to talk about. And then the conversation completely taking this interesting turn about healthcare in America, or about legacy leadership, or about the type of leader that we most like to follow, and just kind of letting that conversation organically be what we're talking about, even though there's another part of my brain wondering where this might be going, or if that person is somebody that might be interested in working with me or hiring me. I can kind of parse those out and just be in a deeper conversation that doesn't need to go anywhere. So far, so good. And even if it seems kind of weird, even if you're in person, I've had a little notepad saying, you know what, hang on a second. I'm actually going to take some notes because I want to remember this conversation for later. And I'll jot down some things. Like if there's a thing that I know I want to send to them later, or something that just really sparks another thought, I'll take a quick note. And I don't make it weird. I just take a note. Okay. So how do you get started? If you don't have an active networking process, a practice in your life, how do you get started? You're going to start by making a list. And our little worksheet that I sent with you with the confirmation email about an hour ago has that worksheet. I can send it to you again. It's nothing, no big shakes. Some of the gals that I work with actually create a spreadsheet, which I highly recommend. I think it's a great way to manage your networking activities. And you're just going to start putting names on a list, just like brainstorming anybody and everyone that you can think of that would be interesting to have a conversation with. Past bosses, past mentors, past colleagues, past clients, people that you may have known from even way long ago, like a professor or a peer, or even a friend or somebody that you met once, people that you want to know better, people that you've seen speak or present or sit on a panel, people that you admire, somebody that could even be famous that you think they probably wouldn't want to talk to me, people above you in your organization, even if you think they wouldn't want to talk to me. And you're going to challenge yourself to get 20 people on a list. Then you can kind of parse them out into warm, cool, and cold, brand new. But first, you just want to grab a bunch of people, like, with whom would I like to be known? With whom would I like to have a conversation? Who am I interested in? Who would I like to know better? Is there a principal at the school where my kids go? Is there somebody that I would love to know a little bit better, even if I don't think there's a career advantage to me? And so here I want to give you some examples. And those gals that are actually in the Leadership Lab, you might remember I had this quite famous hypnotherapist come inside our group and do a special speaker series named Melissa Tears. She is the eminence of neuro hypnotherapy and understanding brain science. She lives in New York City and in Mexico. She's a worldwide speaker. She's super famous, written a bunch of books. She's the person that physicians want to learn from. She goes to big consortiums. She's like this cutting edge researcher and amazing individual. And I've seen her present to hundreds of people. And I just reached out to her and I said, "You've never heard of me. I own this little teeny piece of the internet called the Leadership Lab. I think you're the cat's pajamas, and I would love to know if you'd be interested in speaking to my super tiny group of amazing women." And you know what she said? She said, "I'd love to." And she came and presented to us, and I was just tickled. Wouldn't have happened if I didn't make the ask. So for the gal that at the beginning said, I wouldn't feel comfortable, I would feel like I'm bothering them, I just told myself, she can say no. Maybe people ask her every week. She can say no. That's her boundary, not mine to hold for her. I don't need to think, oh, she's probably going to feel bothered by this, so I shouldn't even ask. That's her business. I'll stay in my business. Maybe she'd be really flattered that somebody asked. I can think of it that way. So I like that example because I think it shows like this is somebody I'd never met before, somebody that I thought was like too important and too worldly that would be to be interested in what I had to offer. And she said yes. Can you think of somebody that you might double dare yourself to ask into a conversation, even if you had never seen them before, even if they don't know you? Okay, so I knew.
Can everyone else still hear Joe?
No, Joe, we can't hear you.
Joe, we lost you.
Mike just suddenly cut out.
Oh,
It's working now.
is it working now?
Yes.
Oh, that's so weird. Okay, I don't know how much we lost there, but are we good?
Yeah, and we didn't lose a lot. It just like the last
Thanks.
sentences.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we're going to get started. We're going to ask people, we're going to reach. We're not going to start having that drama or that inner argument of yeah, but. Your brain will do that. It will say yeah, but, and we're going to just kind of dissociate from that for a second and still write our list. It doesn't mean that you're committed to have to reach out to all those people, but we want you first to be putting as many people on a list as you can. I had one gal who I thought was going to be really challenged to find 20 people. She found 50. Reach out to all of them, but start thinking of all the influential people, all the interesting people, all the people that have positional power and authority, all the people that you think, wow, they're really something, and just put them on the list. Dream big. I've also reached out to people that I never heard from. There's a beautiful author. What is her name? You guys know her. It's Donna Ashworth. I feature her posts in our group all the time. She's a poet. I reached out to her too to say, would you like to come inside my group and read your poetry? Never heard from her. I don't care. That's okay. I sent her off with blessings. I hope that she liked being reached out to by somebody who lives in the US. She's Scottish. Okay, so we're just giving you some tasks, but also some framework or some philosophy or some ways to think about taking these actions. Let's keep going. Okay, so what does the invite look like? You make it super simple. You just invite them to a conversation. You just reach out. You write them an email. You write to them and say, I saw you in X. I heard you in Y. What's the reference point? I met you briefly at Z. I'm wondering if you'd be open to a short conversation or a reconnection if it's somebody you've known for a while and they're like a warm contact that's gone cold, a coffee chat, a virtual coffee, a meet and greet. 20 minutes. I usually even set the time. Would you be open for a 20-minute meet and greet, a 20-minute quick call, just to get to know each other a little bit better, just to so that I could hear a little bit more about what you talked about, just so we could connect a little deeper on that thing we worked on, just a simple connection to hear a little bit more about you and your journey. I'm curious about your experience. That's all that could be like 2 sentences. And then I usually indicate that I'm not seeking anything. I'm not looking for a job. I'm not going to pitch my services. I don't need them to solve a problem for me. And I think that's really important for those of you who will be networking within your organization a few levels above. Sometimes a senior leader will think that this is an escalation, that you need help with something that you're trying to unblock or problem solve. And I like to let them know right off the top, this isn't about that. It's not a transaction that I seek. I don't need anything from you. I literally am just interested in deepening the connection. I'm interested in talking a little bit more about a common thing that we have. I'm interested in getting to know people within this realm a little bit deeper. That's why I'm reaching out. I put some sample outbound invitation scripts in that worksheet that I sent to you. So feel invited to see if any of those resonate for you. I want to pause. Do you feel like you could do this? You can type in the chat. So far, do you feel like this is something that you'd feel comfortable doing, or do you already have some resistance? Okay, so then I'll wait for some comments, but then what does it actually look like when you finally connect? So you send them a link for a 20-minute call if it's virtual, or you set up a time that you're going to meet in person, and there you are. What kind of venues are there? Zoom, Google Meet, in person in the office, an event that you'll both be. It's really good to look ahead if you're going to go to a conference, if you're going to be at a retreat or an offsite, and make dates. Say, hey, I know that we're both going to be in Houston in September. I'd love to grab 20 minutes with you to chat just about blank, or just to get to know you a little bit better. Could we make a date? I want to share a little secret. So there's one gal that I have been professionally flirting with for some time, very, very high up in a medical community in San Francisco, like somebody that's in a like a positional, powerful arena that's like she's voted into this role that she has, very, very high up. And she and I know each other from years and years ago, but we don't know each other very well. Um, and now that I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, I actually reached out to her to say, I'm going to be at the hospital next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. If you're on site, would you like to meet for a coffee? Side note, I was not needing to be at the hospital Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I knew that I could make a date happen if she said yes. And she did. She said, Wednesday afternoon is perfect for me. I'm like, great. What time? And so just a little, like, you could even do that, right? You could even offer that you're going to be in that person's physical location, and would they like to meet? And it's an incredibly powerful opportunity to create that kind of connection. What do you guys think about that? Does that give you the shivers?
Joe, what would you say if she asked you, why were you here? Like, I would, like, what is your story? What would you do? What would you?
Well, I mean, this is where I was like, is this authentic? I was like, I'm teaching this, but is this fair? I mean, I'm still me, but I have a friend who recently had surgery at that hospital, and I thought I could say that I was also visiting her. She wasn't admitted, she had been discharged, but I could say my friend recently had surgery, and I make it a point to check in on her, and I knew that you were here midweek, and so I thought that that might be something that we could connect on. Believe it or not, they don't really care. You could just be like, um, if I'm in town and you're in town, would you like to meet for a coffee? And it works. I think this is the thing where we feel like the spotlight is on us, that we somehow have to be a certain way, but literally the spotlight is on the collective us, not the me, but the us. Like, hey, if I'm there and you're there, shall we be there? And could we connect and have a conversation? And they're not going to double click on, wait, why are you here? What are you doing? So it might be an advanced networking thing that you don't have to dive into head first, right? But I just want to share with you some of my secrets. And that conversation, I mean, it was so interesting because she told me about some of the woes that she has with her team, and how people, like, her schedule is like, "Grrrr," and she needs everybody that meets with her to send like the slide deck of their agenda 24 hours ahead of time, because that's how she does it. That's her, like, that's how she collaborates, is she needs that kind of lead time. And if somebody just sends an agenda right before the meeting, she'll cancel the meeting because it's a waste of her time, and she gets really frustrated. And so I'm feeling very activated just sitting in, like, blue bottle coffee with this individual, and time's going by. We were there for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And I was like, isn't she too busy to be just talking? But you know, this is where everyone's a sovereign individual in charge of their own self, their own calendar, their own schedule. If she wants to talk to me and I have the time, I don't need to tell her that we're done because she must be busy. She can let me know that she's too busy. But I thought that was really interesting that she was telling me how busy she was, but then we sat there for hours and hours talking and chatting. I did finally end the meeting, and I'll tell you how to do that too. So just consider how creative you could be if you wanted to meet somebody of influence and actually just take the initiative to be where they're going to be. Okay, I'd like to read some things in the chat. I'm seeing a comment. Asking is the sticky part. Initiating the process is the hard part. I guess that opens up to accept the no as their choice, not a personal fail. Yeah, this is where we need to get more comfortable with that. Networking is not a pass fail. You can't do it wrong. You're not in trouble if somebody says no. There's no great scoreboard that says, oops, that person said no. There's a tally in the loss column. It's all part of you being in the flow of your business, in the flow of your career. It's part of what you do. And this is something that salespeople get really used to, like with the cold calling. They're doing this all day, every day, expecting at least 50% of the people to hang up on them and another 25% to abuse them with, you know, don't call me, I'll call you. We have to get used to putting ourselves out there and making it more about the activity, not about our worthiness. It's not about whether or not we're being a bother or whether they think that we're worthy of connecting to or not. So it's a practice. And that's why later on, I'm going to tell you, you start with your warmest contacts first. You don't go straight to asking like the director of, you know, hospitals to meet with you for 2.5 hours. You start with somebody that you already feel fairly warm towards, that you have an acquaintance with, that you have some rapport with, that you feel some ease. That's how we begin. We start in the shallow end of the pool. And then you can kind of build up to challenging yourself to have more conversations with people that are a little bit colder and not as well known in your network. All right, so in the actual meeting, what do you talk about? Here's a quick rundown. Hi, thanks. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me. As I said before, I don't need anything. I'm not coming to you because I have a problem or something I need to be solved. I'm not selling anything. This isn't like that. I just wanted to reconnect, or I just wanted to make a connection. I just wanted to hear a little bit more about what's going on for you now, or I wanted to learn a little bit more about what you do because it's an area I'm interested in, or I wanted to hear more about what you're working on because it's something that's adjacent to what I work on. I just thought it would be good to have a discussion. So I'm giving you a bunch of different things that you can pull from depending on why you chose this person. What's your commonality? And just letting them know up front, this is just a chance for me to have a connection, just to, you know, for me, this is another tell. I do a lot of DMing on LinkedIn, cold, direct messages to people asking if they want to talk to me about leadership development. That might make you totally cringe on behalf of me, like, ooh, how do you do that? And I just do it. And when I get the person on a call, I say, you know what? It's just so great to be off a platform and in a more personal dynamic, even though it's always a virtual call like this, like a Zoom call. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to actually connect off the LinkedIn platform and just have a regular conversation. I just want to get to know you a little better, hear a little bit more about what's going on for you, see if there's anything I can do to help. This isn't a sales call. It's just a chance for us to get to become more acquainted. And if it goes somewhere, great. If not, I appreciate making the contact. That's kind of the spirit that I bring when it's a real cold connection. Okay. So then you're just listening. You're just actively listening, which you all know how to do. You hear what the person's talking about. You are curious. You can double click on what they're talking about. Really say more. I'm curious. Tell me more. What do you mean by that? How does that work for you? What happens next? That sounds so scary. That sounds so interesting. Validating what they're talking about, asking more questions, being naturally curious. That's all you're doing. We talk about going 3 layers deep. Just continue to be curious. I see a gal on this call right now is interviewing like 20 leaders in her organization. And I think at first she was feeling a little bit like, I don't know what to talk about. And now, as she's getting it underway, she's told me that people really enjoy it. They're very generous. They're excited to talk about what they're working on. It's flattering to have somebody be interested in you, and that takes some of the pressure off. Okay, there's sort of like a cascade that if you were to give your conversation some structure, you first talk about them, then you can talk about us, like you and them, what you have in common, what you see, where the commonalities are, and then there might be a moment for you to talk about yourself. It goes you, us, me. Doesn't even have to get to me though. There's a comment, and for those of you who are tracking, my lovely client says, "That's me. I have so much to share about this experience." And if I hurry up and finish, I'd love to hear you share live, but let me get through my slides. You can offer your insights, you can offer your observations, you can offer resources that you have if you'd like. You may or may not ask for help or offer to help. It's up to you if it feels right in the moment. You could offer to help or ask for help. There are a lot of organizations that say networking, especially when you're working with a sponsor, is ask your sponsor, how can I help you? But what I hear a lot is that feels empty because there are some people that are so high up or so distant from what we do that there's not really anything they need from us. Like, so if it doesn't feel genuine or very possible or probable for you to be offering help to someone, you don't have to offer. But if it feels like it's something that you could be generous about that would be worthwhile to them, then certainly you could, but you don't have to. I've heard too many people say, when you're networking, ask, how can I help you? And I don't know that you need to embed that as like um, a fact, like something that you always have to do. How do you pivot out? Let's say you've got another call or you've got to go or you're feeling awkward and it's just time to start moving. You're in a live dynamic and you're at a cocktail event. You don't want to get sucked into one conversation. How do you get out? How do you pivot out? With that one magnanimous leader that I mentioned, the chief of hospitals, I was feeling like I gotta go. Like I've I've had a wonderful time, but it's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. I literally touch them on their forearm and say, "You know what? I have so enjoyed our conversation. It's probably time for us to go off to do other things. I've got to get into I've got to get back to my kids, or I see somebody else that I need to speak to. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I know you must be busy. Can I follow up with you later? I have a few thoughts from our conversation. I'd love to follow up later. Can I send you an email?" And then you say farewell. That's how I pivot. If I'm in person, I literally touch the person to signal, you know what? This is amazing and I gotta go. I literally I call it a pivot because I physically might even move my body or I'll stand up. So might take a little practice, but these are fun. I know you're like, no, it's not fun, Joe, but it can be fun. My favorite phrase about networking is you're not focused on being interesting. You're only focused on being interested. Be interested. You don't have to be interesting. Take the pressure off yourself. It's all about understanding more about that other person, being generous, being curious, going 3 levels deep. I know you're thinking, but isn't networking supposed to be for my career? Yeah, that's how we do it. That's how we make really good connections, is we ask other people about them and we have a cool conversation about it. Surprising? Okay. Remember, just listening to somebody else is adding value. Honoring their journey is validating and flattering. You don't have to do anything, but listen well. Be curious, be interested. You're not performing. Ask open-ended questions, be in a learning mindset, be genuine, be you. And also, there's a thing called the law of reciprocity, where after a while, most socially cognizant individuals will realize they're dominating the conversation and will ask you something. They will say, but enough about me. Tell me all about you. So there might be a moment where that comes back to you, but remember, first, it's about you. Then it can be about us. And then later it can be about me. And we're going to talk a little bit about how do you make it about me? Okay, what about more targeted networking? Not just general people that you want to know a little bit better. Somebody who's in the org that you're interested in. You're like wanting to make a contact in another company where you may want to work. A potential client, a potential hiring manager, an offsite with somebody influential in your organization, skip level leaders who you want to impress. These feel like higher stakes because this is now you're going to feel that pressure to want to give a good impression. You're going to feel some pressure to want to get something like some assurance, some sense of interest, some validation, some encouragement. But we want to remember that that's not what we're here to do. We're just here to connect. I'm going to share a little bit, though, how you might handle these. There's two concepts I want to teach you that have to do with marketing. Because in some way, when you're getting close to somebody and you're talking about yourself, you're sort of marketing yourself, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you need clients. There is an aspect of you being um, being bought into. And so there's this first concept I want to share with you called know, like, trust. It's a marketing concept of a trio. It's a cascade. It's a range where first somebody will get to know you, and then they start to like you and buy into you, and then they really feel like they can trust you. This happens with products. This is a marketing concept. If I have anybody that's in the marketing world on the call, you know this, that first you got to get the name of your product out there. Then that you have to explain why it's good and get people feeling good about it. And then you have to show some social proof, people having fun using the product, people claiming that the product helped them, people giving that sense that it's a trustworthy brand. And then other people will buy in. Happens with people too. So this is a little bit about how know, like, trust works for us. First, they got to know who we are. They have to know our name, right? They have to know a little bit about who we are, what we're about, and just become acquainted with us. That's why we're doing this networking, is to be known, right? Second is to be liked. And this isn't you performing or trying to be people pleasing. It's you getting them interested in you, them being interested in your work or the way you think or your thought process, your take on things. And that comes from you sharing a little bit about your philosophy or what you're working on or what you think about. And then the third part, we move from know to like to trust, is them feeling like they really do feel like they could invest in you, that they would bond you, that they feel familiar enough that they could recommend you. They know your track record. They feel like you have potential. They've seen enough of you to feel like, yeah, that's a promotion cascade. That's a way for you to be hired, to go through the know, like, trust process with somebody of influence is how you do get hired, promoted, and such. All of these require you to have contact with people, for you to develop rapport. This is part of why you have these conversations. You don't need to do this with a cold call in one conversation, but maybe you can see how over time, after a few conversations, you deepen this relationship so that somebody does know, like, and trust you the same way that you have come to know, like, and trust people in your community. Is that resonant for you? Okay, the second concept I want to talk, oh, here we go. Wait, a little bit deeper on being known, liked, and trusted. Okay, here are some things that you want to think about before you start having these types of conversations for promotion, for being hired, for making inroads at a company that you're curious about, to be seeking another job or another level. You want to think a little bit about your story. What is the arc of your career? How did you start and where are you now? What are the themes? What do you feel inspired by? What are you challenged by? How do you work with those challenges? What have you learned recently? What are you proud of? What are your teams doing? This is sort of a little bit of a preparation conversation to create a little bit more of the story about who you are, how you move in the world, what matters to you. These also can be prompts that you use to ask another person that you don't know well, to ask them, Tell me about your career arc. How did you get to where you are? What inspires you or challenges you? How are you navigating that current challenge? How are you coping with your team in that dynamic? This can be a wonderful way of asking open-ended questions of another person to create that connection. Goes both ways. On being liked and trusted, I'm always saying, talk about the big picture. What are you focusing on and why? What matters to you? What opportunities and hurdles do you face? If you're in an org and you're talking to skip level or you're wanting to connect with somebody, can you parrot? Can you feed back to another person what your leader thinks about? If you don't know, can you get clear in that conversation? Can you have a conversation about what leadership cares about, what they're thinking about for the next quarter, what obstacles and hurdles concern them? Can you think about what kind of impact you'd like to have, or what your product has, or what your team might have, or what your organization might have? Big picture conversations are great promotion networking conversations. They're great conversations to have when you're going for a new level, when you're wanting to impress someone. Again, I'm not talking about getting anything, but we all know that networking is, in the end of the day, about being known, liked, and trusted. And so having idea conversations about the big picture are really, really helpful. Good so far? Okay. The second tactic I wanted to tell you, the marketing tactic that you can use, that you can know about and use in terms of networking, is the value bank. And this is the whole concept that we're never trying to get anything in a single conversation. We're always investing in our future. It's like a penny in the bank. Every interaction is an investment in each other, in our relationship, in the future, in ideas, in curating ideas, in growing our curiosity, in being fulfilled, energized, excited, turned on, lit up. It's all what we're doing. We're putting pennies in that bank. We're increasing the value in us by learning, by gaining interest, by gaining some interesting insight from another person. They're gaining from us if we're able to add to that conversation. We want to think about this concept of the value bank where we're always giving value together, that it's always about investing, that we want to make investments before we want to make a withdrawal. I recently was, I'm in a mentoring group where I'm a volunteer mentor for people younger in their careers. And we were talking about how unfortunate it is when somebody starts pinging you when they need a job. Like, you can go on their LinkedIn and all of a sudden they have like the green little arc that says open to work. And all of a sudden they're asking you for connections. And you're like, oh, like we should be doing this before you're desperate needing a job, right? Like that's, so you want to make deposits before withdrawals. That's what I'm teaching you, is you want to be having conversations with people that aren't goal bound, they're relationship bound. They're about value. I know there might be some gals on the call that are like, yes, but I also need a job. Don't worry. Doing this is going to get you a job. Take your time. There is no hurry. If you're feeling daunted, if you're feeling like, oh, this is so hard, if you're in that conversation, you're like, what am I doing? Just focus on the other person. People love to talk about themselves. You might find a window of a relatability where you can start having the us conversation, right? You, we, me. You know, have some fun with the we. That's all. Nothing serious has gone on. And then we could talk about the fails. What if it actually doesn't go well at all? What if it feels like a total epic fail? What if it's an awkward conversation? What if the person no-shows? Well, so what? You write them a little follow-up. That happens to me all the time. All the time. I put lipstick on and everything, and I get on the call and the person doesn't show up. Oh well. I move on. One lovely gal on the call told me a story about when she was networking with somebody, and the person started the call from the car. They were going through a drive-through to buy some food. They were making food in their kitchen. It was super awkward. The other person was like, "Wait, why are we talking again?" You know, really did not make the kind of connection that we were hoping for. So what? There is no, it doesn't tank you. Like I said, there's no scoreboard where all of a sudden you're down a point. It's just one conversation, you move on. Not everybody's good at networking the way you're going to be good at networking. You won't vibe with everyone the same. You focus on what does work for you and with whom. And again, should you offer to be helpful to help your sponsor or the person that you've engaged with, there's nothing wrong with it, but it might not be applicable. It's not necessary. Okay. Also, you want to be making contacts on LinkedIn. You want to be looking at companies that you're interested in, looking at people that you're interested in, looking at people that LinkedIn suggests you might want to have a connection with. That's what the platform is all about. There's nothing to be weird about. I have sent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of LinkedIn connections with the same message saying, LinkedIn suggested that we connect because we share an interest in blank. Open to a connection if you are. And they can either accept or not, and I don't make it mean anything about me. Reach out to people, reach out to people, reach out to people, go for it, connect. And follow up when those people do connect. I like to follow what they post. I might comment on what they post. I might invite them to a live call. I might send them a message. Nothing weird about it. That's what the LinkedIn platform is all about. If you'd like to join groups, that works to get out there and talk to people. Your little worksheet has suggested groups that you might consider joining. And then follow up. This is when you can make an ask. You're holding the space live to connect, to talk about ideas, to focus on them, to be curious. But it's afterwards when you can actually make a request. So I always send a quick thank you afterwards. Hey, it was nice having breakfast with you. I liked seeing you the other day. It was so great to reconnect. It was so fun to meet with you and talk about X, Y, or Z. We talked about blank. Here's a link to that podcast that we talked about. Here's this YouTube short I thought you might like. I thought about you afterwards, and this is the book that I couldn't remember when we were together. Sending them stuff is great, just virtually. And then you can make an ask. Then you can say, hey, I don't know if you realize I am on a job search. I'd be so keen to work in your org. If there's any opportunity that you see available, I would be so open to having another conversation about that. It is so fine, so encouraged for you to make an ask in the thank you. That's when you can say, I'd love to follow up with you again. Would you be open to another conversation? I saw that you know a hiring manager that I'm interested in meeting. Would you connect us? This is where you can make a very specific ask. Do you see how that can be natural and not weird? And it simply can just be, can we do this again sometime? Would you be open to chatting again, maybe next quarter or in the new year? Or I'd love to touch base when I'm in San Francisco again. Always good to just keep thinking about pennies in the bank. There's lots of sample follow-up scripts in the worksheet that I sent you. All right, some success stories that I can share of mine. I know this one gal. I've known her for almost 20 years. I know her very, 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 very well. She was a previous employee of mine. I promoted her numerous times. And still, she doesn't quite know what I do for a living now. And she's got an amazing job at a company where I would love to be hired. And I just asked her for a coffee date. I was like, hey, we should get together and have coffee. She's like, I would love that. We met, we had coffee, and then like 2 weeks later, she said, "Hey, I have this problem at my company." And I thought, who could help me? And it occurred to me, God, maybe Joe Zuleika could help me. And I'm like, you think? And I tell you this story because even when you're well known, it's amazing how obvious you need to be that you're available, that you're interested, that like what you think about to be front of mind. And indeed, this woman hired me, and I have this beautiful relationship with the company that I sought. So that was a very warm contact, and how important it was for me just to stir the pot. It just reminded her of who I am and what I do, and it became more front of mind. Um, I can scoot through a few of these. I had breakfast with the company owner once, and he realized I could bring value. He asked me later, "Is that something you're interested in?" We had a consult, and I explained how I could do a facilitated workshop for his team, and they hired me. I did a walk recently with a peer, a fellow coach, who, in the course of our conversation, she was saying she's got this really big contract and she needs help with actually the one-on-one coaching after this big retreat she's doing. Would I be interested? Heck yeah. We haven't signed a deal yet, but maybe. Um, I've recently received 2 consults from one of my best friend's mother, who was like, "Oh, I know this woman, she'd be amazing. You should contact her." And I've had consults with people that I hadn't met before. So things like this happen when you're out, when you're putting yourself out there, when you're meeting people, when you're taking initiative, talking about who you are and what you do, not being transactional, being known, liked, and trusted. It's how you are really activating your network. Okay, we're getting into the very end. I want to talk a little bit about advanced networking. And I've talked about this when talked about skip level, when you're really keen to be promoted, or you want to make a good impression, or you're wanting to be hired. That when you can talk about vision, when you can talk about the big picture, the North Star, whatever it is for you personally, for the org, for the other individual, what they care about, showing your thought process, showing what you're inspired by is inspiring. What you believe, what you value, what you think is important, what you'd love to know more about, what matters to you is exactly what you want to be more fluent in to have a really creative conversation about. It's not, "I need a job. Would you hire me? Who can you connect me with?" It's, "This is what I'd like to talk about and think about. This is what I'm noodling on. What are your thoughts?" And then later in the follow-up, you could say, "That was such a sparkly conversation. If you knew anybody that would be interested in what I think and do, please feel free to connect me." Big picture opens the scope of possibilities. Okay, I have some resources for you. I have some things that I love to recommend. If you feel like I have no idea what I talk about, let's get your ideas brewing. On the left is a reading list, things that you can read these are texts that I love, that I go back to all the time, that are both encouraging for you to feel like you have merit and worth and cool ideas to put out there in the world, and also things that you could talk about. Especially the fourth one. One of my favorite texts is called The Art of Possibility. Highly recommend. Little short stories. And then on the right side, there are YouTube videos, TED Talks, little Super Soul Sunday clips that I think are very, again, very enriching, both of your spirit to feel excited about being connected and also having something to talk about. Some really great speeches that you might consider, like invest in your own idea bucket so you have something cool to talk about that you can bring to a conversation. And here we are, your networking challenge coming in for a landing, gals. This is your challenge. You're going to make your list. You're going to get at least 20 people on your list. You're going to commit to a calendar of networking hygiene. How many people could you reach out to per week? How many calls could you schedule per week? Could be, I reach out to 2 people every week and I try to book 1 call every week. And if they don't happen, that's fine. But you just want to start in a practice. I'm going to reach out to 5 people. I'm going to put 5 people on my list. I'm going to invite 3 people to a networking event or to meet me in person or for a virtual call. What can you commit to that you actually put on your calendar so you start a practice that is recurring and becomes natural and normal for you? If you start a spreadsheet, you can keep track of dates that you've reached out and what the follow-up was. You can even color code them like some of my lovely gals do. Warm, cool, cold. And you want to do it every week. This is how you start your active networking process. You're doing it all the time. You never know what's going to take hold, what's going to sparkle, what's going to lead to something, and you don't care because you're not being end goal focused. You're putting all of this investment into being out there and creating connections. I've had people that I knew from a city that I lived in 15 years ago reach out to me to connect me to somebody else because they thought that we belonged together. Awesome. That's what we're about. Okay. I was cruising in there at the end to be able to offer you some time for Q&A. We're a little bit over time, but I have all the time in the world for you. You are welcome now to unmute, come on camera, or type in the chat. What questions do you have? What yes, but objections might you feel? What further depth would you like to know about when you're thinking about creating your networking practice? And if you need to bounce, make sure you see the worksheet that I sent to you. I will also send you this recording. But what are your thoughts, lovelies? What comes up for you when you think about networking? I'm also going to give you, if we're not connected, this is me networking. Take a little shot of my QR code, ladies, and let's link in. Yes, you have to drop. Thank you for coming. I love it that you said it's a much needed session. You're so welcome. And those of you who I do coach one-on-one, this is perfect for us to coach on. Also, if you aren't a client of mine, see that little link, joleader.com/insider. It's a little offer for you. If you want more personalized help, if you want somebody like me in your corner to be able to coach you, to help you if you're trying to promo or if you're working with a difficult situation, hello, that's what I do. So there's a little link in there if that's something I offer that when I have room in my calendar, and I do. Yes, I need to drop. Thank you. I'll be working through the exercises. Thank you for joining. I love that you're here. Happy to hear any other questions that you might have, or lovely lass that is the gal that I saw in person earlier this week. Do you want to share with us a little bit about your stories of interviewing leaders at your org? You said you had a lot that you learned. I'm happy to hear if you're available.
I'm happy to if
Yeah.
if people don't have questions.
That's great. Do it.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's been one of the most valuable experiences of my life.
That's
What
amazing.
I'm just like so what I did is that there was this call to topics for a summit within my much larger org that has like, I don't know, 100,000 people. And so I submitted a proposal that I was going to interview all these leaders and say what they think about how to thrive in times of reorg or leadership changes. And I got, they said yes to my topic. And so then I stressed a lot because I basically realized I only had 2 weeks to interview all these leaders. And I started interviewing them, and I've just it's been amazing, I think, in so many ways. One, I mean, some people I had, didn't even know existed because I don't work with them, because they're far away from me, but I know that they're very influential. And so I reached out to them and they were like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so it was a way for me to connect to them. I practiced a lot of active listening and trying to repeat sometimes what people were saying and digging into one specific thing. That I think showing people that I was listening to them was really the most important thing at that point. Two, it was also an opportunity to have, other questions or topics or things that, happen. And and it's an opportunity for us to chat, and then we can follow up to another chat another day on something that comes up, right? So it's always good to, it's exactly what you said earlier, Joe, to tell people that you're there so that they know that you're there. And then eventually you can say, hey, like, by the way, how about this thing or this thing? Or, they want to ask you questions on some things that they realize that you may know of. And so, yeah, so like this idea of like follow up is really something I think I haven't necessarily been so good at it, but I think I'm really seeing the value of in this exercise. Um, and then it's also been, number 3, like, it's just been fascinating and exciting to see what these leaders have to say and who cares about what, and who I wanna work with, like, clearly I mean, I did pick some leaders that I know I would like, but, I think it's just super inspiring to see what people care about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
loved it, and I'm not quite done, but it's been an amazing experience.
Love it. Really good. Yeah, and I think this is you're modeling the know, like, trust. Even though you're presenting to a panel about information that you're gathering, but they're getting to know you. By you being interested in them, they're going to feel warm towards you. And this is how you start building those connections that become the know, like, trust, becomes the investment in your future. So good that you didn't know before. I love that. There's a comment in the questions, or a question in the comments. When we make our list, are we focusing on people who work in a field we may want to, or at a company we might like, or just kind of anyone in general? I think it's both. So the anyone in general can be anybody that you feel like would be interesting for you to know, or interesting for you to know deeper. When I talk about building an internal board of advisors, it's about anyone in general that you're interested in, that you would love to have in your corner, that you would love to be known by so that they could advise you. That's a separate kind of networking where you're just building a group that sits at this mythical table that helps you as you're guiding yourself through your career paces. But you also can be thinking about people in your org or in other orgs that you're like Leah just said, I'd like to work for them. They're so cool. Put them on your list. There are people that work in an org that you'd like to work in. Maybe you don't know them. You put them on your list. So it's both. It's anybody that you find inspirational or you feel excited to know better because you feel intrigued, whether you think it's somebody that you might want to work with or it's somebody that you just want to know better. It's all part of you putting yourself out there because at first you don't know necessarily where you want to work. You don't know what organizations you want to work in. You have to have some conversations to see what do people say about the culture? What else is out there? This is you being in the space of ideas. And so it's anybody that you think is intriguing. Hopefully that's helpful. And we coach one-on-one, so I can help you with that too. Like we could talk about a list and I can ask you questions about your list. Really good
That's
question.
helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments that you guys want to ask? I wonder what's surprising to you about this. I wonder if it's surprising to you that I don't propose that you're trying to get anything or impress people, that you're literally just putting yourself out there and being in conversation, being with people. That's all you need to do. And I hope that feels encouraging, not vague. I hope you don't feel pressure because you don't have to be a certain way. All you have to do is be curious and interested. More thoughts?
I think that you also have a recommendation to talk about vision with people, especially with leaders. And I think that, I mean, that's like putting yourself out there, I feel like.
It is. It is. That I think that's kind of like the advanced networking when that's when you're really wanting to be trusted because you want a promotion, to be known, liked, and trusted because you want to be hired. There
Mhm.
is an aspect of those types of connections that there is more focus on the me, where you are sharing more so that they know who you are, they can buy into you, and they believe in the way you think. That's more of an interview type construct. So yes, that there is that aspect. But at first, we just want to be opening ourselves up in ways that maybe feel somewhat foreign, especially since COVID. I think a lot of us have gone really internal. We've been all about screens. We're not working in person as much. There have been years where we haven't had retreats or conferences or in-person networking events. And so we've lost a little bit of that connection or just seeing people or having regular in-person contact. So we're starting with just stirring that pot, with putting ourselves out there, being known, being seen, being connecting. What other questions do you have or hesitations? Let's say you really do feel sort of pressure to perform in a conversation and you don't feel comfortable just spinning a yarn about your vision. Again, you just get curious about the other person. And then at some point you say, you know what? I really appreciate your time. This has been so interesting. I want to think about some of the things that you've said. Takes me a little processing time, and then I'd love to follow up with you later. Thank you for your time. That's it. Pivot out of the conversation. Thank you. I'm going to give you your time back. I know that we're only 10 minutes in, but I feel like you've given me so much to think about. Would you mind if I actually take that time? And I'd love to follow up. I'm going to send you an email. Is that all right? Make it easy for you. All right, gals. Any parting thoughts, questions? You know where to find me. Go out there, make your list, give me some feedback about how it goes. And thank you for
Such a
coming.
great new module. Thank you, Joe.
Yay! Thanks for coming. We'll see you gals again. Bye for
Bye.
now.